Hey guys, how's it going? Muthurajah back with a new video lesson for you all. Before I get to the actual lesson, I just want to make an announcement. I am recording a new course with better bass lessons, an extended course if you will, close to 3 hours in length. So I'm turning to you for ideas and suggestions you might have. Yes, the soloing is the priority here. Like the previous course I recorded, that's pretty much what I usually teach anyway, and I think that's what I'm good at teaching, so I wanted to put out an extended course that has to do with soloing. So whatever ideas and suggestions you have to do with that, let me know, and I will try my best to accommodate it in the course based on how the topics kind of lay themselves out. Okay, so I want to talk about being able to expand your melodies and ideas in general using chromaticism. I have done a few lessons in the past, I believe, on chromaticism, but in this one I want to go a little deeper than I did before, and we're going to use the example of a 5-1 in the key of F. Yeah, let's do F. Okay, so one thing I want to get out of the way is that when you're thinking about 2 5s, 1 2 3 4 1, whatever you play over a 2-5 will work exclusively over the 5. It'll also work exclusively over the 2. And that's a trick you hear a lot of people use, both from the old school to the new school people, right? So whatever I teach you on the dominant can easily be translated on the 2-5 that is taking the same amount of space of an isolated dominant 7th chord. So if you have a dominant 7th chord, 1 2 3 4 1 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, the melodies will work over it. Okay, so for today's example we're going to use a C mixolydian, okay, the bebop mixolydian scale. I don't even know if that's what it's actually called, but it's basically a mixolydian with an extra note, which is the 7th. Okay, this is something I first picked up from Coltrane. I really liked it because he used it on giant steps quite a bit, and I was just like, oh, that's he used it a fair bit in broken fragments or just straight down. So we're going to use that and base one main melody using that. And you don't have to do anything but just play the scale. It'll work over the dominant 7th. So it would sound like this. That's it. Because it's 8 notes long, 1 2 3 4 1, it resolves quite perfectly for the F major. Okay, so how can we extend this? So one way of extending your ideas is by trying to practice double time phrases, which is why I like to actually practice all my standards, even if they are fast tunes. I practice them at half the speed just so I can try to shred over it. So in other words, this is 8 notes, right? But I want to go 1 2 3, so I have 2 more beats to fill in the gaps. What can I do? I can repeat the scale an octave below. 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3 4 1. Okay, so as far as my fingering goes, I'm kind of just going this way, and then once I'm here I shift, or let me see, yeah, shift to the C, shift to the G, and there. Or I can shift down. Okay, if you actually practice scales the way I've been talking about them all these years, this shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so we have that. So that's now a full bar in 16th notes or 2 bars in 8th notes. Okay, so if I'm playing a slow swing, 3 4 around there, and if I have a dominant 7th for 4 beats, 1 2 3 4 1 2 Or if I have a 2-5-1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1. Okay, or 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. The same phrase works in both contexts. Okay, let's say I don't want to repeat the scale on the bottom. How can I further expand this melody or the scale idea? This is where I like to use chromaticism. So first things first, one thing about chromaticism for me is that with certain exceptions to the case, I usually don't like to play more than 3 notes. Okay, but in this case, the scale actually has 4 chromatic notes in a sequence. So these 4 notes in this particular order, in this particular situation work. But it doesn't mean you improvise like... There's no melody there. But here, you can hear something moving, which is what makes it sound good. Right? So I can enclose the root note. Okay? Now I can do it using a single chromatic or a double chromatic. What is that? Single would basically mean using 1 above, D flat, 1 below, B into the C, and then go down the scale. Okay, double would mean 2 above, 2 below, or see, now I need to kind of work out the fingering. Okay, so single, double. And one thing I want to point out is that there is a difference between going below and above if you're doing single. I don't like that too much. I like above, below, into the target note. But when you're doing double chromatics, both ways sound okay. Or, okay? While we're at it, when you do these doubles, don't try to permutate those chromatic notes. It starts to take away the harmonic foundation of what you're even trying to do. So that's why when you enclose, you try to go closer towards the target note. So when you're doing 2 above, you're going, or let's say 2 above, 2 below. We're doing that. And if we're doing 2 below, 2 above, we go, right? We're trying to enclose. That's the idea of an enclosure, chromatically speaking. Okay, so now we have this. So let's work with 1 above, 1 below. Okay, it's adding 2 more notes. So I have 10 notes in total now, which means I can place this enclosure on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, now that's cool. What if I wanted to extend in the context of double time? What happens now? So let's kind of see our options here. If I start this on beat 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I enclosed. And I ended up resolving this way. That's one way to do it, right? Now let's try another way where I'm going to repeat this chromatic enclosure even on this C here, not just there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so that's what's going to happen if I don't change direction and keep playing this enclosure, run down the scale. I'm going to resolve on the G over the F. Nice sound. Okay, and I'm starting the enclosure on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. Now I land on G. What if I want to land on A? What do I do now? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Chromatic into the A. And when you pick the pace up, or check this out, or okay, so now you might think, oh well, what about this enclosure? It's starting to become a little too repetitive. You don't have to enclose the root anymore. You can enclose the 7th, you know, you can enclose the 5th. But here's what I want you to do. As you play these enclosures, I want you to keep running the scale in its order descending. Don't skip notes, don't change anything, because what that starts to do is it changes the rhythm, but it also puts you in a position where you might feel awkward. So for now, you're trying to get used to this, right? So that's the root. So I want to enclose the 5th, which is G. Nice. I resolve on G, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Versus also resolving on G, but they're both taking very slightly different directions by different enclosures. Now, can you do enclosures on this root on the 5th? Sure. Now, I might not particularly play that way. But if I find myself using a lot of chromatic movements like that, I will try to avoid copying and pasting that same chromatic movement repeatedly. So let's say I enclose root and 5th. What I'm basically going to do is, as I descend, I'm going to avoid playing too many chromatic ideas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so okay. Now, of course, those are chromatic notes, but I'm not doing that. I'm not being chromatic. You know, you don't want to always do that. So this actually sounds quite nice. And then, of course, if you want to further deviate, you can go or you see. So there's varying outcomes. That's now on the background if you can hear. So I want you to give this a shot, try it out, and like I said, prioritize how you combine the notes first before you place it in the context of time. I hope this helped. All right, and I will see you all in the shit until the next video. Peace.